Hi, good morning to all of you. This is your girl, Felicia P. Johnson. Good morning and welcome back on this beautiful Monday morning. It didn't start out so beautiful, being that it was wet outside here in Mobile, Alabama, since we had a lot of rain and thunder showers through the night. But praise God that we were able to get out of the house this morning without the use of the umbrella and get started on our merry way. So, with that being said, I'm going to get right into the matter at hand this morning. We are now on continuing on part 5 of Clean Bad Air, and I shared with you um, a little history about my family, myself, my father's background, and how I ended up from New York, ended up being reared in the South, transitioning from New York City between my parents who divorced, and how I traveled back and forth to New York City once we had our visitation established. So every summer from the time I was 8 years old, I went back to New York City to spend with my father and his family, and occasionally, quite frequently, we also went back on Pacific holidays. So I had a wealth of exposure to many different races, cultures, people. I just met a lot of people, and so I grew up in two places. Even though grew up in the South 9 months with my mother, I always considered New York to still be home. And we met a lot of great friends there. We made a lot of great memories, and we managed to come out and turn out okay. And this is my mom again. It's Perez Pickett, and she married, well, she was Perez Edwards, Perez Pickett, because she married my father, William James Pickett. And as I explained to you, my father has this very, very light complexion, and so for all of our lives and all of his life, he was often mistaken for a white male, and often mistaken for a white Puerto Rican, a Jew, and an Italian person. I don't quite remember people referring to him as Mexican, but I'm sure that that was probably in the mix as well throughout his lifetime. He did develop that little bit of tan that you see as he got older and aged, but as a younger person, a tan was out of the question. I mean, Dad was like just white raw. He was like sugar. But we always knew him to be a black man, and we came to understand at an early age that this was a complexion that was part of his gene pool, because his grandmother was a part of the product of that slavery era, where one of my great grandmothers was fathered by the plantation owner, and by her being fathered by the plantation owner, that gene it becomes recessive. And I noticed, I called it the 3P factor. I began to notice the pattern that this gene would resurface in the first generation of children. So my grandmother, Elizabeth Strong, that was the plantation owner's name, Strong, she married a Lewis who was from Jamaica. He was an extremely, extremely dark man, very handsome man. My grandmother was black, and she had brown color like myself. And my father's father, my grandfather, he also was black, and he had the brown color as myself. However, his father had the light skin and curly black hair as my father's grandmother. So I'm assuming that his grandfather on his father's side was probably also a product of that slavery era. And so my father was destined to receive this color. So as I was saying, my grandmother, my great grandmother, she was the first child of her mother, and she took that color. And then her first child, my great grandmother's first child, who was named after her name was Elizabeth, she also took the light skin color. And the children thereafter were brown complexion. Now, my grandmother's first child, my father, which was her only child, he took that complexion. And then his first child, being my sister, Trinicious, she took the complexion, and then myself, I took the brown complexion. We're his only two children, two daughters. He had no sons. Now, my sister has no children, so therefore myself having two children, my oldest daughter, my father's first grandchild, she took the light skin color. My second child took the brown color as myself. So I just noticed that in the pattern of the family, it's yet to be really substantiated because it depends, I guess, when my sister has kids and when my children have children, because I'm not a grandmother yet either, and I'm not rushing it, but I guess when they have children, then we'll see if the gene continues in this particular pattern. So just wanted to say that. And we talked about the book Passing on the Gift, and I told you about the different characters who were in the book, and I also told you about I can't really say the book is authentic anymore because I sent the rough draft of the book to someone because it had a copy of it had been taken from my house, along with a lot of other things that have been taken from my house and continues to be taken in different places that I've moved to. So it's like somebody's just got a museum collection going on here. However, the characters in the book were, one of them was my high school sweetheart, and I told you about him. He passed away in 2010, and he was a senior when I met him at BC Rain High School, and I was a freshman. And I know what you're thinking, but I was 2 years behind because when I came from New York, even though I had started school already, I had already gone through kindergarten and Head Start. So at 5 years old, I knew everything that a second grader would know. However, with the system in Alabama, they took me out of school when I was 6 years old, when I turned 6 years old, because they didn't know that when I started first grade, I was actually 5. And then when my birthday came around and I was bragging about it's my birthday, they discovered that I was just making 6 years old. So they took me out of school, and I had to wait until I was 7 to start the first grade. So that put me a year behind. Then when I went to the 8th grade and they came out with these competency tests, I didn't do well on the math portion of the test. Therefore, I had to repeat the 8th grade because my mother didn't allow me to go to summer school to redo the math. Therefore, that put me 2 years behind. So although we had this wide gap in grades, we didn't have a very wide gap in our ages. So just kind of throwing that out there and clearing that up too. Now, what else? What else? Okay, so I shared with you that Everything in the book wasn't true. Some things I just threw in there to make a point, to use as examples to make a point or a reference to something. And other things were just a form of editing, not knowing which direction I wanted to take it. So just to see how it fit in, to make the book, to spruce it up, so to say, to see how interesting it would make it. So everything in there wasn't true. What else? So that's kind of summarizing what we've been talking about here with clearing the air. I was making the point in the book that in passing on the gift that you want to be that generation of people, whereas there may have been some family businesses that you were raised around, or as some people say, you were born into, and they have this mentality that if you were born into it, then that means that's who you are, that's who you're going to be, and there's no way out of it for you. Well, I'm here to tell you that's a bold-faced lie of the devil. There is a way out for you, and you don't have to continue the cycle. And there's nothing else you can do. Get out there and sell some shoes. You can flip some hamburgers. Maybe you're not college material. Maybe you're not vocational material. But I'm sure there is something that's positive other than pimping and drug dealing and all of that stuff that you can do. I'm not saying that the people in my family are any of those things. But what I am saying is that because my father ran a guest house, the potential was there for us to become those type of people, and my sister and I, we were never allowed to engage in that area, although you couldn't help but be exposed to it. And that's just no matter even where you live, you're exposed to it. If you're just in the environment, you can just be sitting in your park, but if you're in that type of neighborhood where that type of activity goes on, then you're just automatically exposed to it. So don't be so serious and take it all so personal. But I was just making the point that you can change that, and you be the one to do your best to try to start a new cycle in your family generation and leave a more positive legacy for your children. Maybe you're an artist, you draw well. I can't really say that I've quite honed in on what my particular area might be, but I will say that in my family, we're people of education. We love education. We love reading books. We love writing. We love theater and drama. And these are some of the traits, the characteristics, skills, and training that I try to pass on to my children and encourage them to build upon that. So I just encourage you as well. And we talked about all of the misconceptions that are out there. I'm not a person who date people who I work with. At least I have not in the past. I've been disabled for some time now, so I haven't been necessarily on a job in a permanent situation for anything like that to possibly materialize. So the potential, just really wasn't there for that type of activity. But prior to that, I didn't date people that I worked with. That was just a boundary that I set for myself. And I felt it was a good principle to have. Now, did I have a lot of friends? And I don't mean kissing friends. I don't mean sleeping friends. I just had a lot of great male friends who I grew up with, who I went to school with. We had intellectual exchange and ideas in common, and we just genuinely liked each other. So you may say, she says she loves everybody on Facebook. Well, I do. If I tell that person I love them, I genuinely do. Why? Because I don't have those type of fleshly souls ties to those individuals that would prevent me from having that pure love for them in whatever dimension that may be. And I don't love them all the same. There's something unique and genuine about my relationship with that person that I don't have with the other person, that I appreciate something in them that's not in the other person that I appreciate. So and I'm saying this to you not because I owe anybody any explanations. I don't have to explain my relationships to people, but I'm hoping that it will bless someone, because what I see, this is just me. What I see is people don't know how to express love, and that could be one of the factors as to why we have so many divorces, why we have so many outbursts of anger, and people being so angry with each other. Or you never know which way the wind is going to blow with them. When you say something, you're like, what did I say wrong? What did I do wrong? And everybody's got this hype and this attitude that surrounds them. Everybody is so angry, and if you express love, people seem to be offended by the one thing that is supposed to encourage them and lift them up. It's not always you're hitting on somebody or coming on to somebody. That is a mentality and interpretation of whomever that individual is who's thinking that. And a lot of times, it's not even the individual, it's the culture that they're from. And a lot of that culture can be religious based. And from the religious based culture that they are from, those types of expressions, especially publicly, that's just not permitted. They see it in a whole different light. They don't know you. They don't know your relationship with that person. And believe it or not, a lot of times that outburst of anger that they show, or that aura of they need to correct you about, that is envy. It's jealousy and it's envy, because they see something there that they would desire, and they would desire it from the person more than likely who's saying it, and they don't have that connection. They're not getting that type of attention, and that's the wrong way to go about trying to get it. And I have learned that there is a strategy out there that individuals will use. If we can just separate this group right here, a house divided against itself won't stand. That works even in friendships, relationships, job relationships, in all forms. If they can get in there and stir up the mix with some bad ingredients and cause confusion and conflict, or if they want to put the pressure on another person because they're associating with you in some way that they feel they want, guess what happens? Those people will back away from you because they don't want to deal with the drama that you're bringing with you, because every time you come around, this other group is at the yin yang 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 and creating conflict, and nobody wants to deal with that. So what does that do? What they've done is made the attempt to create a portal where it's easy for you to run to them for the type of relationship and human affection that we all need in our life, or should have in our lives. We all deserve that in our lives, and it makes it easier for them to slip in there. Otherwise, there be no need for them. And so you need to be mindful of the strategies of the devil, because they're out there. And you wonder where a lot of your conflict and your controversies are coming from. It's a spiritual thing. And you've got to open your eyes to what is not just happening in the natural, but what is happening in the spirit. And you know what? The devil tactics never change. They're always the same. He's always going to do it the same way. He may come at a different angle, but his strategy, it doesn't change. And if it works with one, he's going to do it again, and he finds that it works every time. And the end result for those individuals whom he's fooling is just destruction. It's destruction. So I just want to encourage you to be lifted up, to be mindful, to use wisdom while you're out there, and know that it is okay to have self-expression. It is okay to give someone a compliment. Every compliment is not a come on. Every compliment is not a pickup. Every compliment is not some form of prostitution, as you have some people will have it made out to be. That's not the case. These people are envious. This is envy. This is strife. This is something that someone wants for themselves, and they hate to see love between the black family. And I'm going to be honest, and I'm not calling out any races or anything, but the spirit of the devil does not like to see unity among black people. You be blessed. We're clearing bad air. We're going to turn this negativity around into positivity. And if one can express love, you know, it only takes one to set things going. And if you're going to express love, then guess what? The next person it will begin to destroy that barrier. It will begin to break down that barrier that everybody's got their guard up to. Because one thing, you've got all these dating sites out there now. Don't you know the people who are over these dating sites, they don't want you to be independent and be able to find your own love? Why? Because they make money off of them, off of you needing them to do it for you. So anything that they can do to create conflict with their services will have to be needed, or whatever it is you may be doing that will exclude the need of their services, then you're going to get that economic enemy to rear its rugged head in a positive stream of relationships where that service is not needed. I don't use dating services. I don't use online for dating. I'm just old-fashioned like that. I still believe in the old-fashioned way. I don't want to meet any stranger online as my future or potential mate. It's out. Ain't happening for me. But anyway, you guys have a good day, and I'll be coming back to share with you from Prayer Wall. Our focus is wisdom. We're out of the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 34. However, we're using the Revised Standard Version that is called the Book of Sirach, which is the writings that have been kept in the Vatican and other various places over the centuries that are now being inserted back into the scriptures, but have pretty much always been in the Catholic Bibles. So you have a great day, and I love you. This is your girl Felicia, over and out.